recovery efforts in North Carolina are stifled by a surprising source. A port workers' strike threatens to cripple the American middle class. And Blaze Media reveals the truth about Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn's actions on January 6th. We have those stories and so much more. Blaze News Tonight starts right now. Welcome to the chaos. I'm Hilary Kennedy. I'm filling in for Jill Savage. Today is Thursday, October 3rd. And over the past few days, we brought you coverage of the Hurricane Helene relief efforts in North Carolina. Blaze Media's Glenn Beck, Jill Savage, and Julio Rosas are in North Carolina with Representative Corey Mills to assess the aftermath and speak with individuals on the Broad River Fire and Rescue team. Now, President Biden also touched down in North Carolina, but Congressman Mills says the visit may have done more harm than good.
Unfortunately, one of the things that occurred today that slowed down our progress is that President Biden decided to go ahead and do a fly-in today, but then he also put a TFR, 30-mile TFR around the actual impacted area, which means that no helicopters and no planes have any access or any capability to fly. So for 4 hours, they were grounded, search and rescue was grounded, distribution of food and supplies was grounded, and so this, in my opinion, was irresponsible. If FEMA is going to not show up and the federal government is going to delay up to a week to be here, at least don't stop the operations by the civilians and organizations like Mercury One, like Universal Air, like Sentinel Foundation, and others who are Samaritan's Purse, who are trying to do the right things in lieu of federal government assistance.
Well, joining me now to discuss is Matthew Peterson, editor-in-chief of Blaze News. And then we also have Glenn Beck on the phone from North Carolina. So, Glenn, what is Blaze doing in North Carolina right now?
We're just tracking down the facts of what's happening. There's a lot of stuff on the internet. Some of it's true, shockingly true, and we'll have the details on that. Some of it is not true. I will tell you that every American should see this. It is so hopeful. The FEMA, I've seen one FEMA truck. I just interviewed them. They arrived last night. They had a communications truck, so they've got a big satellite so they can, talk to people on TV. They were tucked away. We were driving with 8, 9 people. I was the only one that saw the truck tucked way away from everyone. I said to them, what are you doing here? They were all sitting at a card table with one computer. And they said, well, we need to be where the people are. And I thought, well, the people aren't here. And we're getting them registered so they can sign up for government aid. It is absolutely ridiculous what the federal government is doing. But again, the hope is coming from the people here. You would not believe how, there's a makeshift airport. One of the helicopters is taking off. We're just getting in now. We're just winding ours up because we're going to do a medevac from an old man who's in really bad shape and trapped in his house. And it's all being done by, former special forces. The Harley Davidson dealer here is doing it. This is communities and one American after another coming in and just helping. And we'll have everything you need to know on tomorrow's radio show. And Jill is with me, so she'll be back tomorrow, and we've got some amazing pictures to show you as well.
Glenn, Matthew here. This is fascinating. So you're confirming that what you're seeing is very little action from the federal government and a lot of organized action.
What I'm saying is no action from the federal government. And tomorrow, once I've already talked to 2 sources, and when I get a third one, which I'm going to get here in the next couple of hours, you will have a well-sourced story that is telling you when FEMA does arrive, what they do. They have pulled one source is a semi-truck driver who had been pulled over by FEMA, and they took his food off his truck because they know better.
Wow.
We have FEMA trying to shut down this the Hilo field because the FAA isn't involved. Screw the FAA. If you had planes down here and you had helicopters yourself and you were rescuing them, then fine, we'd shut this down. But you're not here. And I really don't think they care. I really don't think they care. There are people that are still dying. We're on our way to Chimney Rock after this rescue. We're going to Chimney Rock. We're going to land there and try to find somebody from the city to find out. They are bulldozing Chimney Rock. Now, that would have to happen, but is the government going to allow those people to move back and build their homes? Not according to FEMA's own mission plan, no.
That's terrifying. What are some of the major issues that you see arising for people that are living in those communities? Is it access to water,
food? They're not living in the community. Some of them are still trying to get the mud out of their house. They're still trying to. I mean, I've seen tractor trailers upside down, on the sides of the road where they had just been pushed by the water. I've seen houses upside down that were just turned over by the water. It's shocking what we're seeing here. And there are some things, we're making a list that we'll have tomorrow on the radio of things that they need. But I'll tell you, the number one thing I've heard from the people who are organizing things on the ground, and they're all just locals that were special forces, and they said, we just need people. We just need more hands to help. So we'll try to give you some more information on what you can do to help and how you can get in contact with people. But the federal government is not here, and they showed up in, I don't remember the name of the little town, but they showed up and they were pretty much turned around by the locals because they arrived today. This happened last Thursday. And, they're coming in and saying, well, you can't do this, you can't do this. And this one area said, to hell with you. You just got here. We don't need you. Turn around, leave. And they did.
That's amazing, Glenn. Can you tell us a little bit more about that hope that you see? So how are these people? I mean, you basically see multiple communities coordinating together in this relief effort that's been erected in the space of 48 hours. Tell us more about these people.
We were here on Saturday. Mercury One was here on Saturday, and we'll show you the videotape tomorrow. But this Harley Davidson was 3 feet underwater, and it's been scooped out and, all the mud scooped out of it. And they just said, just take it over, move the bikes. A lot of them are wrecked. And pallets of food are coming in. How many, Corey? How many pounds of food? 18,000 from us. How much the whole thing?
At least 350, 400,000 pounds.
About 400,000 pounds of food
Wow.
is sitting out here. And the thing I know they need are more hands to sort it, because they're sorting it in packages and to bags so they can get them out. So when people come in, they know what they need. It is really remarkable here. It is all about the churches. It's all about individuals. It's all about a lot of military, just people who have, taken an oath to the Constitution, seeing problems in their own community and just taking charge and say, okay, here's how we do it. And it's a lot of churches and organizations, charitable organizations that are small, not the big ones. Haven't seen Red Cross. And again, I saw one truck from FEMA parked almost behind an out of business, I don't even know what it was, art store or something.
Like, wow.
Are you there?
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that it's these little grassroots efforts that are making the big difference. I'm so glad you guys are on the ground.
It is God's army. That's what it is. It's God's army. I'm just a few miles away from Billy Graham's house where I sat, 8-10 years ago with him. And I said, where's the next Billy Graham? And he said, God's tired of these people like me getting credit for his work. He said, it's not going to work that way this time. It's not going to be a big centralized movement. He said, it's going to be individuals just standing up, doing what they can do, what the Lord tells them to do, He said, and it'll be a giant mosaic that that everybody in the end will know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is responsible for that. I'm seeing it just in the community where he told me that. I'm seeing it here. Just individuals driving from all over the country. I met somebody from Arizona, people from Harrisburg, the police or fire rescue, or from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The fire rescue from Arizona is here. They just, one of the biggest food drops is it's Texas A&M. The school just came out and said, we're going to help. I mean, it's really amazing what's happening. And quite frankly, it really warms my heart to see a community that has pulled together so well that they can say, you know what, screw off, government. You were late. You don't really care about us. You're not going to boss us around. We don't need you. That hasn't happened that I know of since Herbert Hoover.
It is too little too late for them, but we are so grateful and proud that you and Mercury One are there. We can't wait to hear what you have to say tomorrow. We would love to have more details, more video, more photos, and figure out ways that we can all help and contribute. So thank you for what you're doing. You guys stay safe.
It's remarkable what's happening, and I keep hearing thank you to the audience of the Blaze and my audience and Mercury One. I have heard that once. I've heard it 1,000 times. You are making a difference, so thank you.
Thank you. Thoughts and prayers to you guys. Stay safe out there.
See you tomorrow morning.
All right. See you then. I love that he's saying the thing that, Fred Rogers always said his mother told him, look for the helpers. When things like this happen, look for the helpers. And it sounds like there is no shortage of helpers. I
mean, it just blows me away hearing this, right? Mm-hmm. The hopeful side of it is something that really comes through when Glenn describes it. And it's invigorating. It's good.
Yeah. And I think none of us are surprised that the government is not there doing their part, but we're happy to know that other people are jumping in, Americans helping Americans. All right, so coming up, senior politics editor Chris Bedford is going to weigh in on an impending port strike that could have some major impacts on prices. That's all we need, right? Coming up next. All right, so if you like what we do around here and you want a great way to let other people know what you're watching and you're listening to, you're going to love all the Blaze Media merchandise available at shopblazemedia.com. Everything from the Blaze Heritage and Blaze Media collections to Agua Donkeys and our Trump Vance 2024 merch. We've got jackets, we've got t-shirts, mugs, flags, a whole lot more. There's so much there that you're going to love. So go to shopblazemedia.com today. Check out all the cool stuff available from Blaze Media. And then be sure that you use the promo code BLAZE10. That'll get you 10% off your entire order. That's shopblazemedia.com, promo code BLAZE10 for 10% off. Do it today. Well, one of the most concerning stories in the news cycle this week is the impending Longshoremen's union strike and just how much of an impact this could have on everyday Americans. I've been seeing it all over social media. And Blaze senior politics editor Chris Bedford joins us now to break it down. Chris, let's talk about it. How would this alter the day-to-day life of the average American?
Well, that's going to depend a great deal on how long it goes on for. Yesterday, I went over to Costco in Northern Virginia, and it was completely sold out of toilet paper, which is, as you know, rare for Costco. Kind of triggered me, brought back some memories of COVID, and is kind of stupid because, one, it's unclear if toilet paper would be affected. We get most of our lumber from Canada and the American Northwest. But two, there's been no impact yet of the strike on American goods and trade. However, there could be. A lot of warehouses, a lot of companies have kind of understood that this is going to be coming. It's been broadcast pretty loudly. So they've been stocking up in their warehouses to be prepared for such an event. But the longer it goes on, the more it breaks down in the American lines of supply. And that's not just the cheap foreign imports that we get and we rely on for consumers rely on, the things that fill Walmart shelves. It's also a lot of the made in America stuff. It's the parts that come from abroad. Now, we're obviously a global economy, but more than that, the American people have become basically a dependent economy. We do a lot of stuff. We do services. We buy things. We invest money. We don't make that much here anymore. That's been a big calling card for Donald Trump, for people like J.D. Vance, previously in decades past by some Democrats. And it's a serious issue. For every week that this strike goes on, they can't just, even once they end it and you go back to work, it's going to cause massive disruptions. And it's not even just going to disrupt those things that rely on foreign parts and those things that are foreign manufactured. It's also going to disrupt trucking. American trucking, I did a bunch of reporting on this during COVID, was already in danger. A lot of the independent truckers have started to go down, big companies taking over. It's harder to get ahead. It's no longer always the guaranteed American success story it was in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And just they're going to have to furlough a lot of their drivers if they're no longer picking up at ports. If you remember history, when Standard Oil stopped shipping oil on the trains, well, the trains collapsed. Of course, they had other passengers and other things to bring around, but oil was a mainstay. So you end up with furloughed truckers. That impact goes further and further and spreads across construction, across automotive, across all levels of manufacturing and consumer. And people who are maybe saying, I want to buy this Power Wheel for my kid for Christmas. I want to make sure that they get it. Well, you might want to move on that now.
Chris, I want to get to election updates, but I don't want to leave this topic. Well, first off, it is interesting, is it not, Hilary, how almost people buying toilet paper these days is an emotional act? I'm not sure it's a rational one. It's sort of, oh, I need to go out and do something about this. So you go buy toilet paper. Okay. But there is a serious political angle here, and it is certainly not escaping notice from many observers. You don't even have to be a careful one to wonder about the timing of this event. A few weeks before one of the most contentious presidential elections in our history. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, the longshoremen don't have a lot of women. They're not the longshore persons. They are a blue-collar, hard-working group of people, not unlike the Teamsters, which is a majority male union. Because of that, and because of the trends we've seen in modern politics, they are voting Republican. Maybe not at the top, maybe not where they're sending their money, but that is what the guys down in Texas and the guys in northern New Jersey, the guys in Boston, the guys in Baltimore are generally speaking going to be doing. They don't particularly like the Democrats. But there's more than that at play right now. Whether you're the longshoremen threatening a strike before an election and going through with it now and see how long it's going to last, or whether you're Israel saying, I think now's the time to invade Lebanon, or whether you're Iran saying, I think now's the time to shoot rockets at Israel, everybody knows that the president of the United States is on and off. He's not really at the wheel. He's spending a lot of time at the beach. No one's really afraid that the vice president of the United States is going to be able to do anything to stop them, especially when she's campaigning. And bigger unions than the longshoremen, like the Teamsters, have warned the White House to step aside and not do anything or get involved. People know that if they want to goof around, now is the time to do it. The United States has got no one on that wall watching. No one is going to crack down and say, like like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has done, order a National Guard with Taft-Hartley, on the federal level that would be, to take over the ports and be able to keep them running for 3 months. They're not going to alienate unions right now. It gives them more leverage. And it's kind of reminiscent of the way the Iranians treated Jimmy Carter. They said, well, you're weak. We're not releasing the hostages we have in 79. We're going to hold them for hundreds and hundreds of days. But they knew that Ronald Reagan was strong. They wanted to embarrass Carter. So they released him on the day of Ronald Reagan's inauguration. It was political, but at the same time, it was also realistic. They might have known that Ronald Reagan was not going to negotiate as easily, and during his presidency did not negotiate so easily with Iran. I think that same thing is at play. So American consumers who were worried about Christmas may be hoping, at least if Donald Trump wins this election, maybe the longshoremen will come back to the table and they'll figure this out by November. But even then, the disruption won't be fixed by December.
Boy, I hope they do get it worked out pretty soon because I've got kids and the Christmas gifts. I'm thinking about having to start the ordering now. It's stressing me out a little bit. But switching.
Started last night.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. Well, all right. Yeah. Then I got to get on it.
Mostly used stuff. I mean, cool old books and things like that. The poor kid's going to have a slightly more boring Christmas, but enriching.
Hey, you know what? the old tried and true gifts are usually the best ones. So, but you are motivating me to go ahead and get my shopping done now, because you're right. We don't know how long it could go on. But switching gears now, as the November election approaches, Americans are likely on the lookout for some more of those 2020-esque shenanigans. A recent piece for Blaze Media exposed a group with ties to Democratic donors that has allegedly recruited conservative candidates to pull votes away from leading Republican candidates. The group is called Patriots Run Project. Chris, what can you tell us about this group?
Yeah, they're taking part, and we've reported this out, on a pretty tried and true left-wing game, which is they are more willing than most modern Republicans, not all modern Republicans, but most of them, to play dirty, to recruit people who've been pushed out by the party, people who definitely have a draw amongst more conservative voters, but maybe don't have the same kind of broad electoral appeal. This is always a back and forth within the GOP in the first place. Who's a rhino? Who's a real conservative? There's the battles that have gone on between Republicans of the same party in these states and these counties, anyone who's involved in local politics know, can be more vicious than the ones that go on at the federal level. And left-wing groups that are willing to do this can back those candidates and sow that kind of chaos, divide the vote. We've basically got a winner-takes-all system. It's not representative like some kind of parliamentary system, and that's going to have an impact. And most of the time, they cause a lot of damage. They cause a lot of disruption. Of course, some of the time, you end up with that conservative who was backed by liberal groups to cause trouble because they were unelectable, going to Congress. And then that kind of bites them in the back. So
is this even legal to do?
Sure.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I mean, you can skirt the lines a little bit, but there's nothing in the law that says liberals and Democrats can't give money or support conservatives.
Yeah. Well, I guess that just confirms that we do need to be on the lookout for more 2020-esque shenanigans. Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it. All right.
See you tomorrow.
See you then. All right, coming up, we're going to break down the latest on Steve Baker's investigation into former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. You do not want to miss it. It's coming up next. So I've got something really exciting to share. They say no one reads anymore, but I know that's not true, at least not for this audience. Our best and most important ideas, they are still captured in print, which is why we've decided to launch a premium quarterly magazine, Frontier. So the first issue, this thing is beautiful. Frontier is packed with thoughtful commentary. It has some stunning photography and original journalism that highlights the people who refuse to back down. The first issue, it features work from Matt Taibbi, Chris Rufo, Mark Levin, and Glenn Beck. And this isn't just a magazine. We are planting a flag in the ground. I think you're going to love it. But Frontier, it's just the beginning. As part of our new Blaze Unlimited membership, you're going to get exclusive access to Frontier delivered right to your door, along with a whole lot more. Blaze Unlimited, it's about taking another step toward fighting back against state-run media, propaganda, the forces trying to tear down the foundations of this country. And as a founding member of Blaze Unlimited, you'll receive a limited edition founding members card, even more behind the scenes content, VIP event access, and then here's the big one, the chance to have your voice heard. We want you to help shape the future of Blaze Media and push back against the mainstream machine that is doing everything that it can to silence truth. This membership, it's more than sitting on the sidelines. It is about actively joining the mission to defend free speech and uphold the American way of life. And if you are ready to take the next step in this fight, go to blazeunlimited.com/BNT to claim your spot. But don't wait, because founding member spots, they are limited because we know, hey, this isn't going to be for everyone. So let's stand together, push back, and keep the spirit of America alive. Join Blaze Unlimited today. We are just getting started. Blaze News investigative reporter Steve Baker has been deep in the weeds in January 6th coverage, and one of his latest projects took a deep dive into the life and testimony of former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn.
Private First Class Harry Dunn.
Officer Dunn has been among the first Capitol Police officers to describe what happened to law enforcement on January 6th.
His powerful testimony describing violence and stinging racism laid bare the day's facts for history.
Harry Dunn
is a hero for America.
Officer Harry Dunn is an American hero.
A hero. He is a superhero.
We need heroes like you. At 6'7", you're in hand-to-hand combat with a mob.
Showered with racist abuse.
Fighting on January 6th, that was hard.
He was fighting back insurrectionists across the Capitol while being called the vilest racist names.
Wiping blood off of them, pouring water in their eyes.
They lied under oath.
They lied under oath.
That's right.
Lied under oath.
Former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn is running for Congress.
And I'll protect democracy from more than just Donald Trump.
The AP projected State Senator Sarah Elfreth will win.
I just unsuccessfully ran for office.
His commitment did not go unnoticed.
It is imperative that we establish the truth of that day.
You are now officially part of the Biden campaign.
We must be absolutely clear about what is true and what is a lie.
There are people that say that didn't happen. It's on tape. I think it's important to saturate Congress with truth tellers. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Because I pride myself on my credibility, my integrity, and I don't conflate my story. Telling the truth shouldn't be hard.
We're not returning to the story of former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn simply because he's such a big, easy target. Sure, his lies about January 6th and his trial and congressional hearing perjuries are seemingly legion. But there are more current and legitimately new, worthy reasons for finishing our story on a day in the life of Harry Dunn.
Dunn is launching a new political action committee called Dunn's Democracy Defenders.
Go across the country, up and down the ballot, and elect Democrats and stop MAGA Republicans.
Officer Dunn is a force not just in Maryland politics, but in national politics as he works to get the Tim Walz and Kamala Harris team elected all across the country.
So, with the Capitol CCTV footage, we tracked where Dunn was every moment of January 6th. And it tells a different story than the one he's told in his own book. His congressional testimony, his 2 FBI testimonies, and his testimony under oath during the Oath Keepers trial.
I'm not one to speculate, so I like to stick to facts.
Let's revisit January 6th using Capitol CCTV footage and see what Harry Dunn really did. This is a day in the life of Harry Dunn.
Gosh, this story has fascinated me from day one. So, Matt, can you break down what Steve has found out now?
Look, this is a happy time to finally get this video series going again and get this out. We've been so busy doing so many different things here, but one of the first things I did when I came to Blaze was to find Steve Baker and hire him in part to tell this story that he knows so much about and has spent so many years, around and uncovering. And so what you need to know is that Harry Dunn was the hero. He was chosen to be the hero of January 6th. Yeah, and his end of the bargain, right? His holding up his end of the bargain led him to be put forth as a nominee, as a congressional candidate. As he says, he lost that race. And the craziest thing about this, it took me a while. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Steve. I've seen a lot of these videos and spent hours and hours on this with him. And it took me a while to realize, because it doesn't sound true, right? It's like, Steve, really, this really happened? Why? Why is it hard to accept what Steve's been saying? Because what he finds out is this guy lies about everything. It's not just key moments in federal, trials where people end up going to jail for years because of him and others committing perjury and exaggerating the facts. It's the fact that he writes an entire book and gets paid God knows how much to write it, and it's full of lies. And it's the weirdest thing about it is a lot of the things he lies about, you wouldn't even have to. It's like, I came into work at this time. And if you watch this video, which you can find on YouTube and on X with the Blaze, you'll see the first part of Harry Dunn's day and how in his book about, going to a meeting in the morning and some basic stuff, he just doesn't tell the truth. And it's on video. So, what are you going to do with that?
Well, and so for a lot of people, I feel like they've said, I'm ready to just move on. They want to act like January 6th never happened. Why is this still relevant? Why do we still need to be talking about it?
Yeah, that right is a very, very important question, because people will tell me, and people in our industry and on the right in media will say, well, we don't really talk about this, is over. The audience knows this is still important. And the reason that our audience, which is so incredible, knows this is important and cares about these stories is because this injustice is ongoing, right? People are still more people are being thrown in jail this year than ever before. This is still the narrative that is in the courts that they're attacking Trump with, and this will continue to be an issue right up until January 6, 2025, right? This is not going to go away. They made this the narrative, and the left doubled down on it. So telling the truth about it is still really, really important. And every day, like just in the last debate, right? I mean, they're going to bring up the January 6th narrative. So what people really hunger for is give me something I can bite onto, right? Give me a specific story that I can really see the truth of what happened that day. And I think the wonderful thing about Harry Dunn's day and Steve Baker's day, because he was there that day as well, if you follow those two people on those two people on that same day, you get a real sense of the real story, like what actually went down and sort of the ups and downs of the day. And then with Dunn, as you'll see in this series, if you watch it, it's unbelievable what he got away with lying about. And he still is on the campaign trail for Kamala and Tim Walz today.
What blows my mind is so many people that were there at the Capitol that day, like Steve Dunn, have been held accountable in ways that they should never have been held accountable. People put in solitary confinement,
Yes.
Years now that they've been away from their families. Do you think that Dunn will ever be held accountable when we have evidence like this? Do you think they will ever actually do anything with it?
This is one of the most remarkable things to me. It really doesn't surprise me anymore, but every once in a while I do sit there and think, not a single legacy journalist, not a single peep from the government, the Capitol Hill Police. We know they're very upset. I mean, we know at the DOJ, they're also very upset at our stories. We know that for a fact. They're very upset at Steve, and they are prosecuting him even now. But there's not a single peep, not a word. No one has said anything, and no legacy journalist outfit will touch this story because they know that we have the goods. If they wanted to disprove this, that this man committed perjury, and he committed crimes and put these other people in jail. Some of these Oath Keepers, by the way, they were trying to protect this crazy Capitol Hill cop. They were in a line protecting him from the crowd and probably from himself because he was yelling and screaming at people and then going on to lie about this day. He's not all there. And they ended up going to prison.
For protecting him.
Right. So I sure hope that in the end, justice is served. But right now, it does not look like that's going to happen.
It's going to. Well, and what's coming up on the website regarding January 6th? We have some other things coming up.
Yeah, so we will have a few stories about Harry Dunn coming out for this video, which is a series. It's going to go through his whole day on the Capitol, and there'll be articles associated with that. And then also, if you look on the there's a wonderful article right now. There's a profile. We keep on putting up profiles of people who have been persecuted, and we're just going to continue to do that and do interviews with them as well on video that we bring to our audience.
Keeping the story alive. I love it. Thank you so much. All right. Well, political commentary. It is not enough to change our broken culture. Can the solution be found in a magazine? Well, we explore a new frontier coming up. Stick with us. All right, surprise! Blaze Media is launching an all-new magazine called Frontier. It's going to feature thoughtful commentary. It has stunning photography. It's got original journalism that highlights the people who refuse to back down. And the first issue features work from Matt Taibbi, Chris Rufo, Mark Levin, and Glenn Beck. Frontier's just the beginning, though. As part of our new Blaze Unlimited membership, you get exclusive access to Frontier delivered right to your door, along with a whole lot more. I'm dying for you to tell us about this because this is so beautiful. So Matt, what can people expect from Frontier?
Well, first let's talk about why we're doing this, like why Frontier, and then we'll get into what's in there. And it's something that, Hilary, you and I have spoken about more than a few times, here at the studios. And the fact of the matter is that the right is used to media being only political commentary. So,
yes,
someone plants a flag and destroys the libs, and then you're supposed to sit there and listen to people give their commentary about politics, and that's supposed to make you feel good. And look, it does make me feel good, and we all love it, right? And frankly, a lot of us do it. But that's not gonna really move the dial, and it doesn't really fill our entire souls. Does that make sense?
Yes, we have talked about this a lot because I think one thing that the left does really well is they infiltrate all these different areas of culture, music and fashion and all these lifestyle brands. And the right doesn't do that quite as often. We really do stay focused on politics the most heavily. And I love that you're doing something like this that is starting to infiltrate culture in a different way instead of it just making it political. And this is beautiful, by the way, like the photography in here and the reads. There's one article in here that I thought was super uplifting and hopeful. It's very well written piece. And you just look at it and you go, this is what I want in my life. I want things that make me feel good, that make me hopeful, that remind me of why I'm proud to be an American.
Yes. And we need a vision of what it looks like to win. And what it looks like to win is way more than an election. It's about living a decent American way of life that's realistic and that's good, true, and beautiful in the 21st century. And I think all of us are questioning, what should I buy? How should I dress? You see, the frontier is the reason we chose that name is because we don't live in a time where you can accept what society and civilization is saying. Civilization is decaying. Civilization is going in the wrong direction. The traditions that are around you are bad now, right? I mean, legacy media, right? I mean, anything that's institutional, you don't trust for good reason. That means that all of us are now out in the frontier again because we have to look back and rethink, what should we build? How should we live? And when you're in the frontier, which is this outside the settled area, right? In your own life, you really have to look within yourself. There's a frontier within ourselves, and where savagery meets civilization. It's do we sin or do we act virtuously, right?
Yeah.
But you won't even be there if you're just on screens living an unexamined life. Anyone who actually is really thinking about, what should I do in this craziness? How should I live? You're going to love Frontier because we're just going to look around for people doing amazing, positive things or people creating products that are awesome that will help us all build a way of life together that's fun, exciting, it's full of joy and just the joy of life.
That's what I love about this because I don't know if you're like me, but I'm a part of all these different Facebook groups that are for crunchy Christian moms or, homeschool families or whatever. And it's so nice to know that there are other people out there who are examining these new ideas like, how do we feel about big pharma now? Yes. Do we vaccinate or do we not? How do we come up with holistic remedies for our families? If there is, some sort of longshoremen strike and we can't get our pharmaceuticals or we don't, have the medicines that we need, our over-the-counter medicines, what do we do? And I love that you're profiling people that are doing those things, that are kind of making waves and going off the beaten path and really questioning the way that we've been doing things might not be the best way or definitely isn't the best way. How do we encourage each other? How do we find other like-minded people? And you're doing that here. And this is such a great start.
Yeah. So and just to give one example, there's just stuff out there going on that probably if you're a decent person living a decent life without your face on the internet all day, you just don't know about, right? And one example that I'll give, and then I'll try to stop talking about Frontier, but it's really hard not to.
It's your baby.
So one example I'll give is there are a number of young founders of really ambitious tech companies in El Segundo, California, in the middle of the corrupt and tottering state of California, many of whom are Christian, and unabashed about being basically right-leaning Christians. They love to smoke cigarettes, which I'll throw in, which is a very interesting part of their culture.
Right.
And they work really hard and they lift weights a lot, and they're creating companies that are going to make it rain in localized regions to help, farmland without things getting weird. They're making companies that are looking to create nuclear power, the fire we need to drive things in much, much smaller environments in ways that you didn't even think possible. And they're looking to solve these big problems. And these people exist out there, and you just don't hear about them. I mean, that's just interesting to me. Who are these guys? I want to know more about them. So we sent a great writer out to go spend time with them and write about it. And this is like old magazine writing. Or Matt Taibbi I asked him, can you just tell me what it was like to go into Elon's office and how did the first Twitter file happen? And, I have to admit, he throws a little swear words in there. I hope you aren't offended by it, but he gives a very real picture of behind the Twitter files. What was this like? And that's the frontier, right? That's the oppressive space in which people are doing interesting things and living freely and trying to figure out what we should build.
Well, these are the people that are not getting the mainstream coverage, but you're doing it. I love that we have Frontier, so we hope that everybody gets a copy. It's so incredible. So
how we subscribe, we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, do that real quick.
And what you'll get. So you should realize that Frontier. I know people from earlier this week were going out and looking for where they can find this. So right now, if you go to blazeunlimited.com, that is where you can become a member, because right now Frontier is the premium product you receive as a Blaze Unlimited member. And that may not be for everybody, but that is an incredible new tier that we're offering. So right now, like if you go to blazetv.com and go to subscribe, you'll find this tier that will give you Frontier. Or if you go to blazeunlimited.com, you'll learn all about what that gives you. That really makes you a member of what we're doing here in some very real ways, because we will have some incredible events throughout the country that you'll be able to go to. And you'll get in only if you are a member. And you will also be able to inform the kind of content and the kind of things that we're building here. And Frontier comes along as part of your membership.
I love it. We want you to be part of it. This looks amazing on your coffee table, by the way. So Blaze Media's got your back in more ways than one. A new article for Align reveals how your car is tattletaling on you to the government. We'll explain that next. Is your car watching you? Well, automobile expert Lauren Fix recently wrote that it might in a piece for Blaze News, and she joins us now. Lauren, how could our cars be monitoring us? This is so creepy.
Well, actually they are. And it starts off, believe it or not, back in the infrastructure bill from 2021. And there's a kill switch law. We probably heard about Thomas Massey, the House of Representatives, trying to remove it. Well, guess what happened? That is, just for those who like to look it up, it's section 24220. And that kill switch law allowed them to listen in your car, to monitor your eyes, to literally track all your information. And then what are they doing with that information? Well, we know that manufacturers are hurting financially. We see a lot of cars sitting on lots. And as long as prices keep getting higher, their profit margins are shrinking. And so they, we could sell this data. This data has value. So they sell to the insurance companies, they sell to the police department. And then just recently, Ford decided to create a patent that would sell all your information directly to the police department, that they wouldn't have to go through some sort of contract. And then we just get paid that way, which again is a violation of our privacy and really infuriates me.
Well, yeah, shouldn't they have to disclose this to people that are buying a car, potentially buying a car?
Well, I think they do. How many times have you bought a new car or know someone that has, or been there when someone's gone to what they call the F&I, the finance and insurance guys, and there's long pieces of paper. Nobody reads it. I mean, you'd have to take it to a lawyer to have them read it before you got around to actually signing it and say, can I come back in 2 weeks? But what happens is we all just slide to the bottom, look at the lease numbers, look at the rate or the purchase price, and we sign the paperwork. At that point, you've agreed for the manufacturers to take that information. But then you get your vehicle and you want to sign up for satellite radio, for example. You agree to that. And you're then allowing satellite radio to take your data and sell it as well. So now it's being sold twice and you don't get anything. But then you think, I'd like to have Wi-Fi in the car. The kids who are, they want to play their games while we're traveling. We'll get Wi-Fi rather than using the cell service. That's also being tracked, whether it be AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon, whoever it is, they're collecting that data too. And all of this is being sold. Got to remember that when you're taking a loss in other areas, you got to make it up somehow. And they've done it with not just subscription fees, which we've covered on the Blaze under the Align column that I write for you, but also this is continually going on, and it's going to get worse because in 2026, all cars are going to have a kill switch in them, which we've also covered. And that's going to tell whether you're under the influence of something by the start-stop button. Now, this technology is starting to go into play right now, and I've actually experienced some of it in it already, and I'm not liking it because I know there's going to be a high failure rate.
Lauren, so in terms of legality here, is there anything on the books now that helps consumers? I mean, is all of this just perfectly legal?
Well, it actually probably isn't, but we sign those agreements. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't claim to be one, but I highly suggest you speak with one if you're worried. I know there's a couple of companies out there trying to help you go through the process. You can unsubscribe. You can tell Sirius and all these other companies, you do not take my information. You can do that on your phone as well. But I think what ends up happening is that information still gets out. And when you unsubscribe to them sharing your information, are they really? How do we know? There's no way to actually find that out. So from a legal standpoint, yes, they are violating your privacy. I would say at some point, and I've talked to a couple lawyers, they're looking at potential class action suits against not just the manufacturers, but all the sub-suppliers that are actually taking your data, but not paying you for it or allowing you to opt out of it.
Well, so Lauren, you also recently wrote about House Democrats and Republicans overturning a Biden administration rule that set tougher emission standards for car manufacturers. So what does this actually mean for American car owners?
Well, nothing just exactly yet, but this is interesting. Of course, the Republicans have been saying, we don't like this. This takes away your freedom. You should be able to choose whether you want gas or hybrid or diesel or electric, whatever combination you want. The problem is when the administration that's currently in play, the Biden administration, they want to mandate electric cars. And we know that Kamala Harris will follow that plan because it's about control and it limits your distance. Now, if you want an electric car, go buy one. Absolutely. Buy a Tesla, buy a Hyundai, buy a Ford, whatever you want. But when you take away people's ability to purchase what they want, that's the problem. So just recently, we had quite a few, a little over 10 Democrats jump on the same team saying this doesn't work. That's a big change. That means that they're willing to stand up. Now, we know we can get it across the Senate as well. The problem is we have been promised by the Biden administration that he will not sign it. So it would have to go back to the House, back to the Senate, and we'd have to override that veto. The only other way around this would be to elect President Trump, who has already promised that he will allow you to have choices. And that's what consumers really want.
Well, Lauren Fix, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to feel a lot more self-conscious when I'm driving in my car. I'll make sure not to sing too loudly, pick my nose. Like, I don't know what the car's doing with that information. So thank you very much for at least making us aware.
Thank you.
All right. And make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform, because we want to have everybody know these kinds of information, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just thinking about the show today, there's a lot of interesting aspects to it. One is, Glenn started out talking about how people need to band together and be able to deal with civic infrastructure when everything else breaks down. And you see that happening with certain people stepping up in North Carolina and these other places that have been stricken down by the hurricane. Well, you know what? In Frontier, I will have to say, our own Orrin McIntyre of The Blaze, a host here at The Blaze, writes a piece called "No One Is Coming to Save You." And it's about the aftermath of the last hurricane he experienced in Florida and what he learned from that about how you need local friends and you need to understand that your local community matters in a very real, visceral way, and you need to start taking action along those lines. So if you read Frontier, there's a very good lesson, already talking about how just what's happening in Western North Carolina, no one's coming to save you.
Right.
So how are you going to really, get off the screens and live a life in which you do have community and it's fully embodied?
Absolutely. That you cannot replace that personal connection. You've got to have friends and neighbors. All right. So once again, please make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to rate and review the show. That helps others discover the show as well. We'll be back to break it all down again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.